Another month has almost passed us by, so it's now time for me to reveal my TBR for the month of November. So if you haven't watched one of my TBR videos before, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. So what I like to do is actually build my TBR with you, and to do that I have two TBR jars where I've got books in there that I'm going to pick out, and then I also have two sets of prompt cards that will give me a prompt, and then I can pick books to read from my very long list that are basically waiting for me to read them. I also like to pick out a couple of new releases that are coming up in the month that I'll be wanting to pick up as soon as they come out, and then whatever else takes my fancy. So normally I aim to read about 15 books a month, and I tend to put on between sort of 8 and 10 books onto my official TBR, because that ensures then that I can get through all of the books on the TBR, but also have a little bit of wiggle room to add in additional books as I go through that throughout the month. That gives me a chance to mood read, because I am a pretty big mood reader. I was doing really well with my reading overall, but I have been a bit behind the pace in the last couple of months, and there also are some books that I really want to get to before the end of the year. So I'm going to manipulate this TBR a little bit to make sure that I can definitely cover off some books that I'm eager to read sooner rather than later. But nevertheless, as always, I'm going to start with this jar here, which is my prompt jar. So in here is all of the books that have been recommended to me by somebody who has watched one of my videos or follows me on Instagram. Check out the description box down below, because down there is a link to a book recommendations form. So if you want me to read a book, then you can basically access the form and let me know which book that you want me to read, and then what I tend to do is I check out all of the recommendations that have been thrown my way, and if I haven't read them before, they go onto a bit of paper, I turn it into a star, pop it into the jar, and then each month there's a chance then that I'll pick out one of the books that you have recommended. If you don't want to fill out the book recommendation form, that's absolutely fine. You can leave a comment in one of my videos recommending a book to me, and I'll pick that up as well, and I will pop that in the jar. Now, since last month I've had one new book recommended to me, and it was recommended by Nikki J3062, and that person has recommended Blood of My Monster by Rena Kent, which is actually part 1 of a trilogy. So it was a 3-book kind of series about the same couple. Now, I have read Rena Kent before. I do really enjoy her books, but I haven't read this particular trilogy, so thank you very much for the recommendation, and I have written the first book and popped that into the jar for a chance to be poured out this time. So without further ado then, I'm going to give this a really good shake, tip out the stars, and then I'm going to pick out this orange star here. Okay, so this one is actually an alien romance. It's The Arcav King's Mate by Hart, and it's been recommended by Dragonfly138. So thank you very much for the recommendation. And then basically what I'll do is I'll hold that there so that you can see that's exactly what I wrote here on that bit of paper. So I can't remember what this one is about. Must have been recommended a while ago. So The Arcav King's Mate is a sci-fi alien romance, and it's book 1 in the Arcav Alien Invasion series. So the blurb says on this one, "Give up my life as a cop to rule over aliens? No way. My life changed forever when my name was announced as mate to the Arcav King. Within just a few seconds I was no longer a cop. Now I'm expected to hand myself in and travel back to Arcadia with an alien I've never met. I don't think so. Instead, I'm working with the resistance, fleeing with the help of other humans and fighting for my autonomy. If there's one thing I know, it's this. I'll never give up my freedom for a 7-foot horned alien, even if his heated looks make my toes curl and his low voice gives me goosebumps. The Arcav King says his sanity is on the line, and he can't understand how I can overlook the pleasure that awaits in my arms. But that doesn't justify stealing my freedom forever. Unfortunately, another species of aliens have become interested in Earth and its human inhabitants. Now the Arcav may be the only hope for my planet. Can I stay on the run and live a life in hiding, or will Varian convince me to give up everything to rule his planet at his side?" It says the Arcav King's Mate is a full-length novel with zero insta-love and no cliffhanger. Harlow is independent, feisty and fighting for ownership of her life. So I do love an alien romance. That sounds interesting and I am definitely looking forward to reading that one. So thank you very much for the recommendation. Okay, next up then is this smaller jar, and basically this is a jar where I put in romance recommendations from some of my favourite booktubers that I hadn't read yet but really took my fancy. Now there's only one left in here, so I deliberately only put in 11 recommendations for the year, and I'm going to have a free slot in December. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to structure my TBR videos for 2025, but I probably will, as I did last year, watch my favourite YouTubers end of year wrap-ups where they tell us their top romance reads of the year, and then what I'll do is I'll pick any that I haven't read before that really take my fancy and make sure that I put them on a TBR ready for next year, and then think of some way that I'm going to pull them out either by using the jar again or some other method. Okay, so the last one in here that I haven't got to yet is Hawke by Jescie, and this was recommended by two booktubers that I really enjoy, ThatTallBookGirl and MoreToMary as well, and it appeared in both of their top 10 books of 2023. I've never read anything by Jescie before, but not only does Hawke take my fancy, but also I really like the look of That Sick Love as well. So if Hawke goes well, then I'll definitely be turning my attention to the other one. So the blurb for this one says, from author Jescie comes this powerful and emotional contemporary romance featuring a young girl being torn from her perfect calculated little world, reluctantly falling for her new ex-convict roommate, Hawke, unearthing the truth behind his hidden past. Nicole never imagined anyone other than her seemingly perfect boyfriend Patrick could grab her attention. That is until ex-convict Cameron Hawke unexpectedly becomes their roommate, turning her entire calculated little world upside down. The tension in the house is thick as Hawke's lifestyle clashes abruptly with hers. Nicole's curiosities get the best of her as she attempts to learn the secrets behind Hawke's mysterious past, and temptations become overwhelming as lines get crossed, feelings get blurry, and the truth to a horrific past is unearthed, changing the lives of the three of them forever. Okay, next up then, I use prompt cards to then give me a prompt where I can then choose a book that's been on my TBR for a while. So first of all, I have this pack here. I'm going to give this a bit of a shuffle. I'm going to pick this one here, and this says choose a book which has a one-word title. So the book that immediately springs to mind that I really want to get to is Voyeur by Fiona, and I happen to have a physical copy of this book because I met Fiona at Rare 24 in Edinburgh, and this is a signed copy from her of the 5th anniversary edition of this particular book. So like I said, I've been wanting to read this one for a while. I believe it revolves around a sex club, and so I'm excited to have the opportunity to get to this one. The blurb on the back just says, are you ready to watch? I was until her. For the first time in my life, it wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed the physical connection I swore I'd never want. It was supposed to be simple. Approach, talk, touch. Except it was anything but simple because the woman I watched perform my deepest fantasies turned out to also be my student. So it looks like this is a student teacher relationship, but also revolving around a sex club, like I say. So excited to get to this one. And then finally then I will use this pack of cards to pick out another book that I'm going to read. I'll just shuffle those up here and then spread them out and then pick one at random here. And so I've got this one here which says read a book with an enemies to lovers trope, which is this one here. So I'm going to take the opportunity to pick up this one here, Stolen Heir by Sophie, Lark, and this is book 2 in her Brutal Birthright series. I really enjoyed book 1 and I really wanted to get to book 2, and this physical copy I have is actually an annotated copy that I got from Jen from the Book Refuge, so really excited to read this one. Now it doesn't specifically say that this one is an enemies to lovers, but I know basically that the hero in this one actually kidnaps our heroine, keeps her captive as a bit of a revenge for something that happened in book 1, and therefore I'm going to basically broadly say this one is surely then an enemies to lovers scenario. So the blurb on this one says, love is the one thing you can't steal. Nessa Griffin leads a lonely life, too compassionate and gentle for the underworld business she grew up in. She fills no role in her family's mafia empire, struggling to prove herself both at home and in a highly competitive ballet corps. Mikolai Wilk is the most vicious gangster in Chicago, and he's hell-bent on revenge. His adoptive father saved him from the streets of Warsaw, only to die at the hands of the Griffins. As part of his revenge, Mikolai abducts Netta, holding her captive in his mouldering Gothic mansion. She might not deserve to pay for her family's crimes, but in his world, the wolves eat the lambs no matter how gentle and innocent they may be. But even as Mikolai plots the destruction of everything the Griffins hold dear, he finds himself fixated on his captive, wanting this ballerina to dance only for him. Meanwhile, Nessa finds herself lost in the growing tension between her and her kidnapper, their twisted relationship building in new, terrifying ways. He is the beast to her beauty, but can Nessa find the man inside before he gives in to his hunger? So, there we go. Okay, so that's the first 4 books that I'm going to be reading in the month of November. Next up, I would normally cover off a couple of new releases that I want to get to, but there is only one book that I've written down that I really wanted to get to in the month of November, which is Not a Good Idea by Liliana Carlisle. Now, this is an author who writes Omegaverse, and I normally pick her books up straight away when they come out. They're quick and easy reads, they're great fun, and you know, I enjoy reading them, and usually they're pretty short as well, so it means I can get through them pretty quickly. The thing is, this particular one is actually part of a duet, and the second part comes out in December, so I think I'm actually going to wait and hold this one until December and then read them both together. So that is the plan. So I don't technically have any new releases that I'm specifically going to be reading in the month of November. So it does then mean that I've got some room to just pick books from my TBR that I really wanted to read for a while. Now, one of the books that I'm going to be picking up for sure is Honey Cut by Simone, because this is book 2 in the Lioness duet, and I've just finished reading the first book in this duet. I also read the prequel to this story as well, and so I want to carry on with the momentum, because I feel like if I don't jump on this one straight away, then it's probably one of those books that I'll forget about and not come back to, because I have been enjoying it, but it has not gripped me so much that I'm like desperate to read the next one, if that makes sense. So I'm definitely going to be picking that up and hoping that I enjoy the conclusion to this story. So the blurb on this one says, I have one job in this arranged marriage, and that's to seduce my husband. It should be easy. I'm the heiress to a transatlantic fortune, bred and raised to make a good match. I've spent a lifetime building up my endurance, my discipline, my dedication to my God and my church. The danger lies in falling for the devil who put his ring on my finger, a mistake I made years ago and can't afford to make again. There is one more danger, handsome and green-eyed, emotionally wounded. Tristan Thomas, former soldier and my new husband's bodyguard, a hero who stole my heart with salt-soaked kisses on the sea. But Lioness is not like other places, and this isn't like other marriages. Soon, Tristan, Mark and I are tangled in a knot of vicious jealousy and gorgeous wickedness, where suspicion is an aphrodisiac, and secrets and vows are one and the same. And there is something far darker at play than my real purpose, than the machinations of the church I serve. Darker even than the twisted longings of my own heart, because my husband has secrets of his own, and the reason he'll stop at nothing to possess me could slice my soul deeper than the honeysuckle hilted knife he gave me once upon a time. Because when it comes to Mark Trevenna and his games, the first cut is more than the deepest, it's the sweetest, and he always leaves you begging for more. Okay, next up then, I am going to be picking up Twisted Loyalties by Cora Reilly, because I really desperately want to get to Twisted Emotions and Twisted Pride, that I've heard so much about and everyone says are absolutely amazing. Now, I have enjoyed the Born in Blood series, which comes before this one, and I think I've read 6 books in that series, but I haven't quite finished it off because there's a couple of books at the end of that one that are kind of like, you know, books from the hero's viewpoint instead of the heroine's viewpoint, and kind of repeating old ground. And so as it stands at the minute, I don't 100% want to carry on and finish that series off as I should. I feel like I know enough that I need to, that the start of this series will make sense, and someone has recommended this one to me recently as well. So I'm going to be picking this one up, and this one is book 1 in the Cora Chronicles. The blurb on it says, Fabiano was raised to follow in his father's footsteps as consigliere of the Chicago outfit until the man abandons him. Left to fend for himself, Fabiano is forced to fight for a place in the mafia world. As a ruthless street fighter, he quickly earns his place as the new enforcer of the Las Vegas Camorra, a man to fear. Leona wants to build a decent life for herself away from her drug-addicted mother, but soon she catches the attention of a dangerous man, Fabiano Scuderi. Staying out of trouble and living a normal life are near impossible with a man like him. Leona knows she needs to avoid Fabiano, but men like him aren't easy to shake off. They always get what they want. Fabiano cares about only one thing, the Camorra, but his attraction to Leona soon puts his unwavering loyalty to the test. Is Leona worth risking everything he's fought for and ultimately his life? So like I said, I'm really keen to read the Cora Chronicles, particularly books 2 and 3. So I feel like it's finally time to dive into that series. So next up then, I really want to pick up When She Tempts by Gabrielle Sands, and this is book 2 in the Fallen series. I've read book 1 already, and I owned book 2, 3 and 4, and so I really want to get to the next book in the series because I really enjoyed the books that I've read from Gabrielle Sands so far. So the blurb on this one says, she's 18, innocent, forbidden. Martina de Rossi is off limits, and not just because her brother is about to become the Don. When I agree to protect her while he's out waging a brutal war, it isn't only out of loyalty. It's because Martina is the perfect pawn in my game of revenge. Unfortunately, she's also temptation personified. Innocent eyes, a body to die for, silky blonde hair that begs to be wrapped around my fist. I'm a master of staying in control, but with each day she spends with me inside the walls of my remote Italian castle, I can feel my resolve cracking. My gaze starts to drift, my touch starts to linger, and when she tempts, I realise this game we're playing might be one I won't win. So this is another book then that you can see I've got a physical copy of, and again, a bit like Voyeur from Fiona Cole, this is a book that I picked up at Rare 24 in Edinburgh. I met Gabrielle Sands and it's signed inside, yeah, very excited to read this and let you know what I think. And then finally then, I'm gonna pick a fun one that I really wanted to get to. So a couple of months ago I read the first book in the Montana Mountain Men series by Gemma Weir, and I think that was called The Property of the Mountain Man, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really fun quick read with an obsessive hero, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it, and so I really want to pick up book 2 in this series. It's also a shorter book to read, and you know, I've been reading a lot of really long books recently, you know, well over 400, 500 pages, and so it's always nice, I think, to have a shorter book that is fun and quick and easy to read, and really helps you feel like you're ticking those books off your list. You know, and as I said at the start, I've been struggling to keep up with the amount of reading that I kind of want to do before the end of the year, so I do need to squeeze in a few of smaller books in order to make up my kind of numbers, if you like. Okay, so the second book in this series is called Owned by the Mountain Man, and the blurb on this one says, huge, muscled and sexy in plaid, Hawke Barnett is one of the most beautiful men I've ever seen. Every woman in Rockhead Point wants a taste of the Mountain Man, including me. Except after a drunken girls' night out, instead of waking up with him in my bed, I wake up with a killer hangover and an inbox full of his texts telling me how reckless and dangerous my antics are. Now my dad and brother want to find me a husband, and my ex-boyfriend has decided he wants a job, but I'm not looking for marriage. I'd rather have a few incredible nights with the annoying mountain hottie, only it turns out he's not looking for a hookup, he wants to own me. Okay, there we go then, that's 8 romance books I intend to read in the month of November. I'm really excited about the lineup. Please let me know if you've read any of these, if any of them are on your TBR, let me know what you think. And also remember, if you want to recommend a book to me, there is a link to my recommendations form in the description box down below, so don't be shy, and feel free to let me know what it is that you would like me to read, and then, like I say, I will check it out. If I've not read it before, I will pop it into my jar for a chance to pull out next time. So as always, I'm going to end by saying, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me, and then all that's left for me to do is say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. there is the recommendation form, there is a link to my romance recommendations form down below. I wake up with a killer hangover. Oh, not with a killer. She doesn't wake up with a killer. And this is book 2 in her Fallen. Next up then, I normally cover off a couple of new releases that are coming out in... Next off, I would normally cover... And this one says, read a book. This, to pick out, to help me, this pack of cards, to help me choose another book that I am going to read in the month of November. And I'm just going to, and then basically, you know, pick out some of the romance recommendations that... And then basically pick some of my, and then basically put some of their recommendations into my jar, if that makes sense.